The universe didn't die with a bang or a whimper, but with the shriek of tortured metal and the smell of ozone. One moment, I was charting gravitational anomalies in the Kepler 186 system. The next, the cosmos itself seemed to fold in on my scout ship, the Wanderer. Alarms screamed a symphony of doom as the navigation console exploded in a shower of sparks, plunging me into a violent, rattling darkness. Consciousness became a luxury I couldn't afford. My last sensation was of a brutal impact that felt like a planet-sized fist punching through the hull, and then, mercifully, nothing. I awoke to silence. A profound, absolute silence that was more terrifying than the alarms. My head throbbed with the rhythm of a tribal war drum. The air, thick and humid, tasted of chlorophyll and unknown blossoms. A scent so overpoweringly sweet, it was nauseating. I pushed myself up, my muscles screaming in protest. My flight suit was torn, and a deep gash on my forearm was still weeping crimson. I wasn't in the mangled cockpit of the Wanderer. I was lying in a patch of moss that glowed with a soft internal phosphorescence, surrounded by a jungle so vibrant it hurt my eyes. Towering trees with bark like polished obsidian spiraled towards a sky the color of lavender, where 3 distinct moons hung like celestial pearls. My ship was gone. Not crashed, not in pieces. It had vanished, as if erased from existence. Panic, cold and sharp, clawed at my throat. I was alone, stranded, and utterly, hopelessly lost. A rustle in the impossibly purple undergrowth made me freeze. My hand shot to my belt, my fingers wrapping around the reassuring weight of my vibro knife. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice a ragged croak. The rustling intensified. I braced myself for some horned, fanged predator to burst forth. Instead, she emerged from the foliage with the grace of flowing water. My breath caught in my chest. My panic momentarily forgotten and replaced by sheer, unadulterated awe. She was tall, impossibly elegant, with skin the deep, shimmering blue of a twilight sky. Her eyes were pools of liquid silver, holding a galaxy of wisdom and curiosity. Long white hair cascaded down her back, adorned with glowing flowers I'd just seen on the moss. She wore simple woven garments that did little to hide a physique that was both lithe and powerful. She took a hesitant step forward, her silver eyes wide with a wonder that mirrored my own. She tilted her head, a gesture of pure, unthreatening curiosity. "Zaro," she whispered, her voice a melody, a series of notes that resonated deep within my bones. Before I could process the encounter, more figures emerged from the jungle, silent as specters. More women. One had skin the color of a perfect amethyst, her hair a cascade of dark violet curls. Another was a striking emerald green, her gaze sharp and intelligent. They moved to flank the first woman, forming a silent, breathtaking tableau. They were all different, yet all shared the same impossible beauty, the same look of utter astonishment. My mind, reeling from the crash and the surreal scene before me, struggled to form a coherent thought. I'm Connor Walsh, I stammered, raising a hand in what I hoped was a universal sign of peace. "My ship. There was an accident. I'm from Earth." The word Earth seemed to be a trigger. The sapphire-skinned woman's eyes lit up. She turned to the others, a torrent of musical, lilting words pouring from her lips. The group erupted in excited, hushed chatter, their silver eyes darting between me and each other. The amethyst woman stepped forward, her gaze sweeping over me with an unnerving intensity. "I am Violeta," she said, her voice a low, throaty purr. Her pronunciation was strange, accented, but the words were clear. "We have never seen a male like you before. You are an anomaly." The first woman, the sapphire one, placed a calming hand on Violeta's arm. "I am Azora," she introduced herself. "You are safe here, Connor Walsh of Earth. But you must understand our surprise. We are the daughters of Elysium, and you are the first man to walk this world in 1,000 years." The implication hung in the humid air, heavier than the scent of the alien flowers. 30 women, the last inhabitants of this world, and I had just crash-landed in their Eden. My mission to chart the stars had ended, and a new, far more complicated journey had just begun. Azora's words echoed in my mind. 1,000 years. He was the biological equivalent of a unicorn, a myth made flesh. The women led him through the phosphorescent jungle, their bare feet making no sound on the glowing moss. He, by contrast, felt like a lumbering beast, his heavy boots crunching on the alien terrain. They arrived at a village that seemed to have been grown rather than built. Structures of woven wood and living crystal pulsed with soft internal light, seamlessly integrated with the surrounding flora. A crowd had gathered, drawn by the news of his arrival. Dozens of curious silver eyes watched his every move. Women with skin of jade, ochre, and rose petal whispered and pointed, some reaching out to touch his flight suit as if to confirm he was real. "They are curious," Azora said, her voice a calming presence amidst the overwhelming attention. "We have only ever known each other. Our creators left long ago, and our histories speak of males only in ancient texts." Violeta gestured towards a shimmering opalescent pool nestled in a grotto. Steam rose from its surface, carrying an intoxicating floral scent. "You are injured. The pools of renewal will heal you." I hesitated, suddenly acutely aware of my torn suit, the grime, and the audience of 30 alien women. Do you mind if I have some privacy?" I asked, feeling my cheeks flush. The women exchanged confused glances. "Privacy?" Violeta repeated the word as if it were a foreign concept. "Why would you wish to be alone? Bathing is a communal activity." Azora seemed to understand my discomfort. "It is an Earth custom, Violeta. We must respect it." She spoke to the others in their melodic language, and they reluctantly retreated, though not without several backward glances. Once alone, I stripped off the ruined flight suit and eased myself into the warm, silky water. The effect was instantaneous. A tingling sensation spread through my body, knitting torn muscle and sealing the gash on my arm. The water seemed to hum with a low, resonant energy, and the fog of confusion and pain lifted from my mind. I was stranded, yes, but I was alive, and in a place of impossible wonders. When I emerged, healed and refreshed, a set of clean garments was laid out on a rock. They were made of a soft, shimmering fabric that felt like a cross between silk and spiderweb, and they seemed to shift in color as I moved. Dressed, I found Azora and Violeta waiting for me. "Our world has accepted you," Azora said, a small smile on her lips. "The waters do not heal those with ill intent." Violeta's gaze was more direct, more challenging. "You are strong. The crash should have killed you. Now you must prove your worth. Will you join me in the dance of greeting?" Before I could protest my lack of rhythm, she took my hand. A jolt, like a static charge, shot up my arm at her touch. The ground in the village center was a mosaic of glowing stones. Violeta began to move, her body a fluid poem of grace and strength. I tried to follow, my movements clumsy and awkward. The other women gathered, their quiet giggles doing little for my self-consciousness. I stumbled, nearly bringing us both down. Violeta caught me, her body pressing against mine for a moment longer than necessary. "Relax, Earthman," she whispered, her breath warm against my ear. "Feel the rhythm of Elysium." I closed my eyes, trying to shut out the watching eyes and focus. On her touch, on the strange, hypnotic music that seemed to emanate from the glowing stones. Slowly, my body began to respond. My steps became less clumsy, more confident. I was still no match for her ethereal grace, but I was no longer tripping over my own feet. The dance ended with a final, dramatic spin. I was supposed to catch her. This time I did. I held her in my arms, her amethyst skin glowing in the twilight. The crowd erupted, not in giggles, but in appreciative murmurs. For the first time since waking up on this impossible planet, I felt a flicker of something other than fear and confusion. I felt welcome. That night, after a meal of exotic fruits that exploded with flavor in my mouth, I sat with Azora beneath the 3 moons. We spoke for hours. I told her of Earth, of its sprawling cities, its deep oceans, its history of war and art. She, in turn, told me of Elysium, of their society built on cooperation and a deep spiritual connection to the planet itself. She explained how they reproduced through a form of parthenogenesis, a biological adaptation to their isolation. "We have always been a people in waiting," she confessed, her silver eyes reflecting the triple moonlight. "Waiting for a sign, for a change. And then you fell from the sky." Her intellectual curiosity was a balm to my frayed nerves. We connected on a level that transcended our different origins, finding common ground in the language of science and philosophy. The attraction between us was palpable, an unspoken current flowing in the space between us. Later, as I tried to sleep in a dwelling that felt more like a living womb, the walls softly glowing and pulsing around me, my mind raced. I felt a pull towards Azora's keen mind and gentle spirit, but I couldn't deny the fiery, passionate spark that Violeta had ignited in me. And then there was Emeralda, the green-skinned woman who had watched me with such quiet intensity. She was their healer, their botanist, and I, a xenobotanist by trade, felt a professional and personal curiosity about her. My first few weeks were a blur of acclimation. I spent my days with Emeralda exploring the jungle. We were 2 scientists sharing a profound passion. She showed me plants that could communicate through light patterns, fungi that created intricate musical symphonies, and the great sentient trees that formed the collective consciousness of the forest. Her touch, as she guided my hand to a rare medicinal herb, was gentle and reassuring, and her quiet wisdom grounded me. To prove my worth beyond just being a biological curiosity, I set about making myself useful. I noticed their water distribution system for the village was inefficient. Using salvageable parts from my emergency beacon and my knowledge of engineering, I spent days constructing a more effective irrigation system, culminating in a device I proudly called a shower. "It's for a quicker, more private wash," I explained to a curious crowd. Violeta, ever the bold one, volunteered to be the first to try it. I pulled the lever expecting a gentle cascade. Instead, a torrent of iridescent, foamy liquid erupted, drenching not just Violeta but half the village square. The mixture, a reaction between Elysian minerals and the metal from my beacon, created a mountain of rainbow-hued bubbles. Panic seized me, but then I heard laughter. Soon, the entire square was a chaotic, joyous foam party. Emeralda pulled me into the fray, and I found myself laughing harder than I had in years, sliding through the suds with these vibrant, joyful women. In that moment of shared, bubbly chaos, I wasn't a stranded astronaut. I was just Connor, a man finding a new, bizarre kind of joy. The relationships deepened, each in its own unique way. My evenings with Azora were filled with intellectual debates and stargazing, mapping constellations she had never seen. My afternoons with Violeta were spent in dance and physical training, her pushing me to be stronger, faster. My mornings with Emeralda were sessions of quiet communion with the planet, her teaching me to listen to the whispers of the forest. I was falling for all 3 of them, an impossible, wonderful, and terrifying realization. One evening, the 3 of them approached me together. "Connor," Azora began, her expression serious. "We have spoken. Our society has been stagnant for generations. You are a catalyst, a new variable in our long equation." Violeta stepped forward. "We do not wish to compete for you like in the old stories. That is not our way," Emeralda concluded, her hand resting on my arm. "We believe the future of Elysium lies in integration, not selection. We offer you a place not just as a guest, but as a partner, to all of us. If you will have us." I stood there, speechless, under the light of 3 moons. They weren't asking me to choose. They were asking me to join, to build a future together. My old life was a distant memory, a ghost of a life on a world I might never see again. Here, on this planet of impossible beauty, I was being offered a new one. A life more strange and wonderful than I could have ever imagined. 2 years passed in a whirlwind of love, discovery, and diapers. The once quiet, contemplative society of Elysium had become a vibrant, chaotic, and loving home. My life, once defined by the solitary pursuit of knowledge among the stars, was now anchored by 3 incredible partners, and our 3 even more incredible children. I stood on the balcony of our shared dwelling, a structure we had designed and grown together, a perfect fusion of Elysian bioarchitecture and my own engineering principles. Orion, my son with Azora, cooed in my arms. At just 6 months old, his silver eyes, so like his mother's, already held an unnerving intelligence. He followed the complex flight patterns of nocturnal insects with an intensity that spoke of his mother's analytical mind. His skin had a faint bluish tint, a subtle echo of Azora's sapphire glow. "He is restless." Azora's voice was a soft melody beside me. She leaned against me, her presence a comforting warmth. "He senses the energy of the festival." Tomorrow was the festival of renewal, a celebration of the planet's life cycle. My first as a father? A wild shriek of laughter erupted from the garden below. Violeta was there, her amethyst skin glowing as she twirled and danced. Perched on her hip was our daughter, Aurora. At 18 months, she was a tiny hurricane of creative energy, her skin shifting through a kaleidoscope of colors with her moods. "Papa, dance!" she squealed, waving her chubby arms. I chuckled, handing Orion to Azora. Duty calls. I descended to the garden and scooped up my daughter, attempting to mimic her surprisingly graceful swaying. My clumsy shuffle sent both her and Violeta into fits of laughter. 2 years, my love," Violeta teased. "And you still dance like a wounded grox." A gentle rustling announced the arrival of Emeralda, our youngest Tara, nestled in a sling against her chest. At only 3 months, Tara was a quiet, serene baby who already seemed to possess her mother's deep connection to the planet's flora. Flowers seemed to lean towards her, and the gentle humming frequency of the great trees lowered in pitch whenever she was near. "I thought I might find you all here," Emeralda said, her sea-green eyes full of warmth. Tara wanted to be part of the family meeting. Looking at my family, Azora the scientist, Violeta the artist, Emeralda the naturalist, and our children, each a perfect synthesis of our worlds, a profound sense of contentment washed over me. The next morning was pure chaos. I was trying to teach the kids an Earth custom, cleaning up before a celebration. "Orion, no, the glowing crystal is not food." I lunged, pulling the humming rock from his mouth, nearly tripping over Aurora, who was finger-painting a mural on the floor with berry juice. Emeralda entered, taking in the scene with an amused smile. "Having trouble, Earthman?" "I'm trying to teach them about responsibility," I sighed. She laughed, a sound like wind chimes. "Let me show you the Elysian way." She set Tara down and made a series of soft, musical clicks. Instantly, the dwelling came to life. Supple vines descended from the ceiling, gently gathering scattered toys. Large, flower-like appendages opened, releasing a fine, sweet-smelling mist that dissolved the berry juice stains. Tendrils groomed the children, dressing them in their festival clothes. I watched, sputtering as a particularly enthusiastic vine tried to comb my hair with a leafy branch. "Okay," I conceded, brushing pollen from my face. "Elysium 1, Earth Custom 0. The festival was a riot of color and music. I watched with pride as Aurora joined a children's dance, her movements fluid and vibrant. Azora came to my side, Orion on her hip. "They are the best of both worlds," she murmured, and I felt a lump form in my throat. I judged a baking contest, participated in a ritual blessing for the new year, and even managed to complete a traditional dance with Violeta without causing any major injuries. It was perfect. The perfection was shattered as the suns began to set. Violeta found me, her expression urgent. "Connor, you have to come, now!" She led me to the edge of the village where a small crowd had gathered. A section of the ground, weakened by recent rains, had collapsed, revealing a hidden chamber beneath. Inside, bathed in an eerie blue glow, was an archway covered in symbols that were not Elysian. They were Terran, standard galactic alphabet. My heart hammered against my ribs. It was a portal, one of the ancient gateways the original colonists had used. I had long since abandoned any hope of returning to Earth, making peace with my new life. But now, the choice was staring me in the face. Azora appeared at my side, her hand finding mine. Her touch was trembling. I could feel the unspoken question in her grip, in the eyes of everyone present. The portal hummed, a siren song from a life I had left behind. News spread like wildfire. The celebration died down, replaced by a tense, expectant silence. The entire village was gathered, their silver eyes fixed on me. I saw the fear on the faces of Azora, Violeta, and Emeralda. I saw the confusion in my children's eyes as they clung to their mothers. I took a deep breath and stepped forward. "I know you're all wondering what this means," I said, my voice carrying in the sudden quiet. "The truth is, I'm not sure myself. But I need you all to know, my life here, with all of you, has been the greatest journey of my life." My gaze swept over my family. Azora, my intellectual equal. Violeta, my passionate flame. Emeralda, my gentle anchor. Orion, Aurora, Tara, our future. "That portal," I said, pointing to the shimmering archway, "is a link to my past. But all of you, you are my home." With a resolve that settled deep in my bones, I walked to the portal. I reached out, my fingers hovering over the glowing control panel. For a heartbeat, I saw Earth in my mind's eye, the taste of rain, the roar of a city, the face of my parents. A world of ghosts. Then I looked back at my family, my real, vibrant, and loving family. I pressed my palm against the panel and, with a final surge of power, the portal flickered and died. A collective gasp went through the crowd, followed by a wave of relieved cheers. Azora, Violeta, and Emeralda rushed to me, enveloping me in an embrace. Our children joined in, their small arms wrapping around my legs. The festival erupted again, this time with a renewed, explosive joy. Later that night, perched on a hilltop overlooking our twinkling village, I watched the 3 moons rise with my partners and our children. "You know," I mused, a grin spreading across my face, "with our combined heritage, these kids are going to need a very comprehensive education system. Part astrophysics, part interpretive dance, part botany." Violeta laughed, leaning against me. "We will create it. A new curriculum for a new generation of Elysian. A generation that will know of 2 worlds," Emeralda added softly, stroking Tara's hair, "but will only call one of them home." Azora looked at me, her silver eyes shining with love. "You could have gone back." "I did," I said, pulling her close. "I am home." The story of the Earthman who fell from the sky was just beginning. It was no longer a story of survival, but a story of creation. The creation of a new family, a new culture, and a new future, written in the stars of a lavender sky. This was my legacy, and it was more than I ever could have dreamed of. If you want to explore more strange new worlds and stories that challenge the definition of